Hiya, it's Louise here. Today we're going to be making Victoria sponge cake. So first of all, we need two 8-inch cake tins, and I'm just going to pop a circle of greaseproof in the bottom of each and just grease the trays. So I've just got a little bit of cooking margarine here, so basically just pop a little bit in, just round the sides and the other one. And this is just, you'll be glad you've done this when you're trying to get your cakes out later. So I've pre-cut these out, just normal greaseproof paper, and then just pop those in there like that. And they're all ready. And you can always just pop, you've got a little bit of margarine left on your greaseproof, pop that there. Okay, so that's done. Now it's ready for the ingredients. So this is a really easy recipe. We're going to use 200 grams of margarine. You can use butter, but I think margarine works just as well for this recipe. 200 grams of caster sugar, so in the bowl it goes. And it's an all-in-one recipe. So then we've got 200 grams of self-raising flour. Just pop that in. Because it's an all-in-one recipe, it does need a little bit of baking powder just to help to make the sponge nice and airy. So we're going to use 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Pop that in there. Okay, so that's the dry ingredients. And then what we're going to do is just pop 4 eggs into that mixture. So I've cracked my 4 eggs into the jug here. And what I'm going to do, rather than just pop them straight in, I'm just going to give them a little whisk up. Okay, that just helps the process to make them the sponge a little bit quicker. And then just to add a little bit of flavour, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'll just add that in with the egg mixture. So that's going to give it a lovely vanilla-y flavour. Half a teaspoon of that. And just to make sure that the cake doesn't get too dry, I'm going to add 30 ml of milk. If you make sure the milk's at room temperature rather than straight from the fridge, and also make sure the eggs are at room temperature, and then that will hopefully stop it from curdling. So pop that in there, just give it a mix up, and then pop it in to your bowl. Okay, so we're just going to give this a little mix up now. Now I'm using my mixer, but you can either use a handheld mixer or you can just use a wooden spoon. It just means that if you're not using an actual mixer like this, you will need to beat it for a little bit longer. So just going to pop this on, just turn it on, gently at first, just so the flour doesn't go everywhere. And then once it's all sort of incorporated, just give it a really good mix up. So literally it's had a couple of minutes at quite a fast speed, and it's all incorporated nicely. So what I'm going to do now is just get it out of the bowl, just scrape all the bits that you need out, scrape around your bowl. What I forgot to mention earlier is with your margarine, if you just make sure that that's at room temperature as well, and it'll make it so much easier to mix. And then all we're going to do is just pour it into the tins, so just put some in one tin. And it is quite a loose consistency, which is good. Some in another tin, and sometimes what I do is get the weighing scales out and just weigh it so that I can make sure that they're equal, but I'm not going to do that today. So once you've got it in your tin, if you just smooth it out, there we go, and make a sort of little tiny dip in the centre, because it always rises in the centre. So if you can make a little dip in the centre, that will just try and make your cake a little bit more even. Okay, and then that's ready for the oven. So we're going to pop these in the oven now. Gas mark 5 or 170 fan. Now, generally they take about 20 minutes to cook, but as you're probably aware, I always check things a bit early. So I'm going to pop them for 15 minutes and check them after that. Okay, so while the cake is baking in the oven, I'm going to make the buttercream filling. So for this, I've got 180 grams of icing sugar. Now, it just depends on your icing sugar whether you want to sieve it or not, but because I'm not piping it or anything, it's going to probably be fine not sieved. So that just goes in there. And then I've also got here 60 grams of butter. Now this is butter this time because I just think when you're making buttercream, it tastes so much better with butter than it does with margarine. So what I have done is just pop this in the microwave just for a few seconds just to soften it, because if it's hard it'll take forever to make, so it's a nice sort of soft consistency. So that goes in there as well. You don't want it liquidy, but it's nice just when it's just soft. And then to that we're also going to add 20 ml of milk and some vanilla extract. So all we need is a 1/4 teaspoon of the vanilla, because otherwise it'll be overpowering. So just measure out 1/4 teaspoon, pop it in with the milk, just give it a little mix up, and then we're going to, first of all, before we add the milk, we're just going to pop that into the mixer and give it a couple of minutes until it goes to like breadcrumb consistency. Okay, so the reason we get it to the breadcrumb consistency is just so that if there are any lumps in the icing sugar, it will break them down. Now, rather than add all this milk at once, I'm just going to add sort of half of it and see how it goes. Going to add a little bit more, a little bit more. I'm going to turn the speed up then and give it a good whisk for about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so that's had 2 to 3 minutes on quite a high speed, and what we've got here is a lovely consistency. It's nice and soft, and if you can look at it, it's a lovely pale colour. Okay, so we just want to scrape the bowl. And it should be really easy to mix. If you're finding that it's hard to mix and it's quite stiff, you need to add a little bit more milk. If you find that you've overdone with the milk and you've put too much in and it's a little bit runny or a bit curdly, what you need to do is sieve a little bit more icing sugar in. And I say sieve this time because you just want to make sure there's no lumps in at this stage. Okay, but this looks perfect. Okay, so that's ready for when the cake comes out of the oven and when the cake is cool. So we'll just pop some cling film over that and leave it. Okay, so I've taken my cakes out of the oven. I've tested them with just a wooden skewer, just popped it in the centre there and it came out clean. I tested them after 15 minutes and they weren't quite ready, so I gave them another couple of minutes. They've had 17 minutes. Now, the other thing you can do is if you just give them a little shake while they're in the oven like that, you can see, and if they wobble, it means it's still not ready. But what's happened with mine is, I don't know if you can see, just on the outside, they've just started to shrink away from the side of the tin, and that's an indication that they're ready. So I'm going to leave them in the tin for a few minutes, but while they're still warm, I'm just going to go around with a knife and just loosen the cake so that it's not sticking to the edge of the tin, and that just makes it a lot easier when I come to actually take the cake out of the tin once it's cooled down a little bit. Okay, so they've had a couple of minutes cooling. I'm just going to turn them out onto a cooling rack, so just go over like that and they come out nice and easily because I've actually gone round with the knife. Oh, you can smell the vanilla in this as well. Same with the other one. Okay, and then come out nice and easily. And then what you do need to do now is just peel off this layer of greaseproof paper that you put on, and that will just make sure that the cake allows to cool nicely. Oh, it smells beautiful. There we go. Okay, and you can see the cakes. Beautiful, cooked in the middle, lovely light sponge. That's going to be delish. So I've got my cakes here now. What you need to really make sure is that they cool completely before you try and put any buttercream or jam in them. If I was to put the buttercream on them now, what it would do, it would melt the butter in the cream, and you try and put your cake together and it would slide all over the place. So these need at least an hour now to actually cool down, and once they're completely cool, then I'll show you how to fill the cakes with buttercream and jam. Right, so my cakes are nicely cooled now. The tricky bit sometimes is getting it off the cooling rack, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on another cooling rack, so I'm just going to turn that way around, and then I'm just going to flip it over like that, because when it's cooling, what happens is it sticks to this, and then we can just gently pop it off like that. Okay, so I'm going to lift one of these up and pop it onto a plate now. So it should be easy enough just to lift up and then turn it that way around. There we go. And then we're going to get our buttercream. I always put buttercream on the bottom. I don't know why, it just seems, I think it's probably because it's a little bit more denser than the jam. So it sort of works better. So I'm going to get my buttercream and just dollop it on. It's nice to have a good filling. And then I'm just going to spread it gently around. Now if this was too stiff, it would be really difficult to spread around and it would pull all my sponge up. So I just go just to the edge, not quite to the very edge, but to the edge so that when the top goes on, it just sort of oozes out a little bit, and I quite like that. Okay, so that's my buttercream. Lovely. Okay, so I've just placed the other half of the cake on this little board so that I can put the jam on it. I've just used 3 tablespoons of raspberry jam, any raspberry jam, but if you get a nice good quality one, it always makes the cake taste a little bit better. So just give it a little mix up, and then again just smooth that over. Okay, so you can just get the last bit out with a spatula. Now if you think you'd like a little bit more jam on, then by all means put an extra teaspoon on, or as much as you want. I'm thinking actually that maybe this would benefit from a little bit extra jam, so because I quite like a lot of jam. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get just a little bit more jam. It's quite runny, this one, so you don't really need to mix it too much. So 3 to 4 tablespoons of jam. There we go, a little bit more. Don't want to be stingy with the jam. And again, if you just do it not to the very edge, but just to the edge, so that when you pop it onto the cake, you might get little bits of jam just oozing out. So that's a nice layer of jam. Okay, and then the tricky bit, well, it's not really tricky, but we just want to pop it over onto the cake. So just lift it up, quick as you can, pop it over. So once it's on top of the cake, what I like to do is just give it a little press down, so that you can see around here the jam's oozing out there, and it just looks really nice. Okay, so once your cake's ready, just for a final touch, you might want to pop a little bit of icing sugar just on. It just makes it look really pretty, and it tastes good too. Okay, so that's my lovely Victoria sponge, quick and easy. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe to my channel, please do so. You can find all the ingredients in the description below. Bye for now.